Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're a delegate heading to the convention floor, consider this your strategic briefing. We're unpacking today's Business Issue 1, specifically zeroing in on Floor Committee 7 for University Education. We're going to dig right into the resolutions affecting the Concordia University System, and more importantly, we're going to give you clear, actionable tools to navigate the floor debate with total confidence. So here's the game plan for today. First, we'll set the stage with the kingdom over castle framework. Then we'll quickly sort through the consent calendar items, dive into approving faithful leaders, tackle worship and identity, break down that massive corporate status study, and finally, we'll wrap up with a delegate cheat sheet you can actually take to the mic. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Kingdom over Castle, our main analytical lens for the day. Okay, so what exactly do we mean by kingdom over castle? Well, at its core, it's the idea that the synod exists to serve its students, its congregations, and its universities, absolutely not the other way around. Whenever you're looking at a proposal, you need to ask, is this building up unnecessary, centralized control? Because that is classic castle thinking. Or does it actually serve the mission by aiming for low control and high accountability? We want structures that foster real trust and gospel witness, rather than just institutional self-protection. Now, to measure that accountability on the floor, we're going to use something called the 5 capitals. Think of these as the church's distinct resources. We've got spiritual capital, that's our chapel life, pure confession, word and sacrament. Relational capital is the trust we share across the synod, universities, and districts. Physical capital, that's literally the bricks and mortar, our campuses and classrooms. Intellectual capital covers orthodox Lutheran teaching and governance clarity. And finally, financial capital, which is all about sustainability and debt management. So for every single resolution, ask yourself, does this release these capitals for the kingdom or restrict them to guard the castle? Moving right along to Section 2, Consent Calendar Items, covering Resolutions 701, 702, 703, 709, and 710. Let's quickly clear the deck. You can safely set aside Resolutions 701, 709, and 710. These are straightforward commendations and thanksgivings, including, of course, giving thanks for the absolutely vital mission of Concordia Ann Arbor. They don't need amendments, they're perfect for the consent calendar. Now, 702 and 703, those are mid-priority. They just clarify regent training and program oversight. Keep an eye on them in case the floor debate takes a weird turn, but honestly, your energy is much better spent elsewhere. Okay, Section 3. This is where we hit the high-impact stuff, approving faithful leaders in Resolutions 704 and 705. Resolutions 704 and 705 are all about the prior approval protocols for university theology faculties and presidents. Listen, this is a massive mission opportunity. Making sure the folks who form our future church workers are firmly grounded in faithful, orthodox Lutheran doctrine is paramount. It doesn't get much more important than this. But here's the catch. The castle thinking risk here is a totally inaccessible, foggy process. You see, a process that claims to be accountable can still feel completely arbitrary to candidates if it lacks public clarity. That is exactly why this improved amendment you see here is so brilliant. It standardizes those doctrinal expectations without micromanaging local search panels. By demanding published criteria, predictable timelines, and written notice of concerns, it aggressively protects our intellectual capital while building up relational capital through basic fairness. So, when you're huddling with your delegation, pose this question. Would a candidate or a president actually understand this process before trouble starts? And if you step up to the microphone, keep this chairman-ready phrase right in your back pocket. Transparency builds trust. Simple, right? Let's shift gears to Section 4, Worship and Identity, looking at Resolutions 706 and 707. These two items are deeply theological. Resolution 706 provides guidance for university worship practices. This is a crucial opportunity to form our students through a rich, confessionally faithful chapel life. Meanwhile, 707 tasks the synod with officially defining Lutheran identity for all our universities. Now, there is a real tension here. For 706, the castle risk is that worship guidance devolves into a top-down liturgical compliance clipboard instead of a pastoral tool. And for 707, the risk is that Lutheran identity becomes this rigid compliance category completely disconnected from campus realities. The improved amendments here are absolute game changers. For worship, we have to distinguish actual doctrine from local custom. For identity, the process must deliberately include the people on the ground, faculties, presidents, and students. We need high doctrinal accountability without suffocating the local campuses. That's how we release our spiritual capital. So, on the floor, ask your huddle, does this protect Lutheran worship while actually teaching rather than merely policing? We want to form students, not just hand out citations. And if you're speaking to 707, just remember this catchy phrase: identity requires input.
All right, Section 5. This is the big one: Corporate Status Study, Resolution 7-08.
This resolution explores converting the Concordia University System into a synod-wide corporate entity. It addresses some monumental shifts in higher education. Yes, the mission opportunity is greater alignment, but guys, a preloaded study, one that ignores accreditation, legal liabilities, and the gritty realities of running a modern university, is a massive, massive risk. We literally cannot afford an administrative study that ignores the real world.
And speaking of what we can afford, get this. The chief financial officer estimates this study will cost $75,000, and that is just for the in-person meetings. If the Synod is going to spend that kind of financial capital, we have to make absolutely sure the study is comprehensive, objective, and actually useful.
That is exactly why this improved amendment is essential. It forces the study to include a rigorous impact analysis on things that actually matter, like university accreditation, legal liabilities, and property rights. And it mandates consulting with campus regents and legal counsel before any centralization even happens. This is the very definition of high accountability. It totally safeguards our financial and physical capital by ensuring we don't accidentally blow up our institutions just trying to manage them.
So bring this question back to your delegation. Does this study actively protect our university's accreditation and mission? And if you get to the mic on 708, hit them with this phrase: measure twice, cut once. Seriously, we need all the facts before we start restructuring the whole system.
Okay, bringing it all together now in Section 6, the delegate cheat sheet. These are your actionable tools.
Here is your battle plan. This is the ranked list of priorities. If time is short and debate gets cut off, focus all your delegation's energy right at the top on Resolution 708 to make sure that corporate study is safe. Then work your way down to identity, prior approval, and worship, applying that kingdom over castle lens every step of the way.
Now, if you need to make a motion but your mind goes blank in the heat of the moment, we've all been there, just read this Master Amendment paragraph. It's designed to work for almost any of the high-impact resolutions. It perfectly encapsulates everything we've talked about: demanding transparent accountability, blocking centralized overcontrol, and insisting on local input to release capital for our students. And hey, if you don't want to formally amend a resolution, you can still step to the mic and just ask one of these 3 questions. Asking the committee, does this create accountability without micromanaging, is incredibly effective. It completely shifts the tone of the entire room from a conversation about control back to a conversation about the mission.
Because ultimately, why are we doing this? We're evaluating these bylaws and studies not to hoard institutional power, but for the sake of the gospel. We want our campuses to be vibrant places where the risen Christ forms students for vocation, pure confession, and bold witness in the world. So as you walk onto that convention floor, I'll leave you with this. Are we just building a castle to protect ourselves, or are we truly unleashing the kingdom of God?